In February 2025, I uploaded a nearly 2-hour video reviewing facts that made me believe Richard Allen was guilty of killing Abby Williams and Libby German after they were dropped off for a walk in the woods on February 13, 2017. Some people asked for a shorter summary, and with the recent release of trial exhibits, it is even more obvious Richard Allen was the man captured in Libby's video on Monon High Bridge. My video is mostly for people who have not spent the time to truly analyze Rick's 3 timelines that he gave police over 5 years. I spent the time analyzing them, and this video proves Rick's supposed noon arrival time at the trail was a lie. When he told police 5 days after the murders that he arrived around 1:30, he was telling the truth, and he was Bridge Guy. The jury realized that after they spent several days examining the evidence and convicted him in November 2024.
What's going on, sweetheart?
I did it.
You did
No,
what?
I did it.
What?
I killed Abby. I killed Abby and Libby.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't, Darren.
Yes, I did.
Don't say
I don't know why.
No, you didn't.
At this point in the case, there is no reasonable doubt. Only unreasonable doubt by people who either have not taken the time to analyze the facts of the afternoon of February 13th, 2017, or they choose to ignore the facts just to complain that Rick was falsely convicted, treated unfairly in prison, blame the police for corruption and incompetence, or they think Ron Logan, Kegan Kline, or white supremacist Odinists killed the 2 young white girls. The most important question in solving this case should be, where was Richard Allen at 2:13 p.m. on February 13th, 2017? Thanks to Libby and Abby, 5 females on the trail, and Richard Allen's statements, it is obvious he was stalking Abby and Libby on the bridge at 2:13 p.m. Here we go with a detailed analysis. It's important to remember Delphi is a small town of less than 3,000 people. At Rick's trial, several men testified that they lived in Delphi their entire lives and did not know Monon High Bridge existed or never walked the trail. On the day of the murders, Rick was off from work from his job at CVS Pharmacy in Delphi, and no one could provide an alibi for him between 11:15 a.m. when he left his mom's house about 40 minutes from Delphi until his wife returned home from work around 5:30 p.m.
But again, when it comes to Kathy, I'm guessing the jury would have loved to hear her say, I got home at 5:30, which is what she would have testified to, and Rick was asleep on the couch, and there was no blood anywhere, and he wasn't acting weird, which is all the case. There was nothing in the car. I didn't see anything. He didn't act odd at all. I think that would have been an important part that maybe could have negated whatever it was that they tipped, the scale in favor of the prosecution.
In his October 13th, 2022 interview, Rick recalled February 13th, 2017.
I went over to my mom's in Peru, Mexico. My wife was working, so I went over there and spent the day. Not the day. I spent the morning with them. My sisters come over, and they were going to go eat lunch and stuff, and I wasn't about that. So I went home, and I remember it was a fairly warm day, or warmer than normal, so I think I just put a jacket on and went back out to the trails. I remember walking down to the bridge. I left my mom's, it was probably around 11:15. So I think I would have been out there. It would have been around noon, I thought, is when I was out there. Walked down to High Bridge. Always went out just a little ways, not all the way. Went out a little ways and watched the fish. See if I seen any fish down there because I like fishing. And walked back and sat on the, when you turn around and go down the other fork, there's a bench that overlooks, and sat there for a few minutes and walked back out and left.
That was a lie. There is zero evidence Richard Allen was on the trail and bridge between noon to 1:30. Zero. Nada. Nothing. On January 30th, 2024, the defense was given discovery, including security videos from businesses in the town of Delphi. But at his trial, they did not present any footage of Rick driving between around 11:45 a.m. to 2 p.m. down Main Street, Delphi, going to and from the trail to prove his noon to 1:45 timeline and driving route were true. 3 days after the murders, Rick told police he was there between 1 to 3. 2 days later, 5 days after the murders, he told another officer he was there between 1:30 to 3:30. This officer testified that it was understood that he was physically on the trail between 1:30 to 3:30, and that officer noted the 30-minute difference from what he had said 2 days earlier. So 5 years after the murders, why did Rick change his timeline to say he arrived around noon and left at 1, 1:30, or 1:45? In April 2019, police held a huge press conference with an update on the case.
We're seeking the public's help to identify the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS welfare building in the city of Delphi that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway between the hours of noon to 5. If you were parked there or know who was parked there, please contact the officers at the command post.
Richard Allen did not come forward even though he was parked there between those hours. Maybe he said he arrived at noon to admit that he was there, but wanted police to think that he was gone by the time of Libby's Snapchat photos at 2:07 p.m. 2 years prior, he did tell the police that he parked there. It could be argued that he felt he did not need to tell them again, or he did not want to draw attention to himself. After that press conference, no other driver came forward to say they parked in that same unusual spot next to the abandoned CPS building Rick admitted to parking at, and 2 drivers passing by at 2:10 and around 2:19 saw a car parked in that unusual spot. Said it reminded her of her dad's car from the 1960s, but the driver at 2:10 described it as a purple PT Cruiser or a small SUV, and another driver at 2:28 described it as possibly a smart car. 3 eyewitness sightings in 18 minutes. One said it was from the 1960s. 2 drivers said the car was more modern. In his 2022 police interview, Rick rambled to police for a few minutes about some faraway parking lot that is on someone's private property according to Zillow, but Google Earth from April 2017, 2 months after the murders, shows it was not even a paved parking lot until years later. Rick eventually admitted he did park next to the old building at CPS. Rick's noon to 1 p.m. timeline makes no sense because he never encountered 5 females who were there during that time. One of those females was by herself. Her name was Betsy. She testified that she went to the trails often to do 3 loops around the trail for exercise. Her car was captured on the Hoosier Harvestor video surveillance camera at 12:02 p.m., which is a few seconds from arriving at the parking lot across from the Mears family farm, and her car was later seen on video leaving for about a half-hour bathroom break at 1:15 p.m. So she was on the trail approximately 1 hour and 13 minutes, which would have been the same time Rick was there, at least according to his 2022 timeline. She was seen leaving at 1:15 p.m. She testified at the trial that she always went the same route 3 times on the trail. She would park at the Mears lot, make a left at the Mears intersection, walk all the way down to Monon High Bridge. At the barricade, she would turn around, come back to the Mears intersection. From there, she would go down to the lower trail, but not go all the way down to the creek, come back to the Mears intersection, walk to Freedom Bridge, turn around, come back to the Mears intersection, and repeat that 2 more times. On the day of the murders, she did it 2 loops between 12:02 and 1:15, then she came back from 1:46 to 2:19. She wore a Fitbit exercise tracker, which corroborated this. Based on that route, Betsy passed the bench at the Mears intersection 7 times between 12:02 and 1:15 p.m. Rick said he sat on that bench during that time, but Betsy never saw any men until she saw a bridge guy on platform 1 around 1:53 p.m., according to my estimates of her arriving at 1:46. She would have seen Rick on the trail at Monon High Bridge or any of the 6 benches if he arrived at noon and left at 1 or later. She did not. This proves Rick lied about his noon arrival.
I killed Abby and Libby.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't, Darren.
Yes, I did.
Don't say
I don't know why.
No, you didn't.
4 girls took photos time-stamped at 12:25 at Freedom Bridge. Then they walked the entire trail, past all 6 benches, until they reached Monon High Bridge and took a photo at 12:43. They never encountered Rick between those 15 minutes he said he was on the trail platform 1 of the bridge, or the bench at Mears, or any other bench. I visited Delphi and walked the entire trail to the Monon High Bridge. It's impossible to not notice other people. I don't understand how anyone can say he is innocent and ignore this. I guess they're just too busy complaining about other things that happened after his arrest and have not taken the time to analyze his timelines on the day of the murders.
I killed Abby.
No, you didn't. Stop.
Betsy left at 1:15 p.m. to use the library restroom and drove by the abandoned CPS lot around 1:15 and again at 2:19, but only noticed a car against the CPS building at 2:19 because it was parked next to the old building, not next to the trail like most cars usually parked. Rick's noon arrival was a lie.
I need you to know that I did this.
What?
And if you want to say, well, he left at 1, so his car was gone by 1:15, Betsy would have seen him on the trail, at the bridge, on the bench, and also as she was going back and forth from Freedom Bridge. Also, the 4 girls would have seen him. Thanks to Indy Archive for uploading this video to YouTube. It shows that as you're driving from Mears towards CPS, as you come around this corner, the CPS lot is in full view. This video was taken after the building was demolished, but I've driven on this road. If you're driving towards CPS, you would have seen the car at 1:15. Betsy did not, because Rick's car was not there. So if Rick was not there from noon to 1 or 1:30, what was the truth? The truth was his 1:30 arrival he told police 5 days after the murders. Rick told the prison psychologist he was an alcoholic, and on his way home from his mom's, instead of going to lunch, he bought a 6-pack and drank 3 beers at home. That gave him about 90 minutes at home before he said he bundled up and went to the trail. Another thanks to YouTube channel Hughes Investigates, who recently uploaded a video which was an impressive vehicle comparison after he purchased a 3D model image of a 2016 black Ford Focus SE which matched Richard Allen's car. And then he overlaid it on the 1:27 p.m. screenshots of a car headed toward the direction of the CPS parking lot. It's a match. Motor vehicle records in Indiana revealed that Richard Allen was the only person in Carroll County who owned a black 2016 Ford Focus SE. You can see in this photo of Betsy's SUV that it clearly shows traditional silver hubcaps as opposed to the 127 car like Rick's with all black wheels. One of the things that struck me when I visited Delphi, it's like in the middle of nowhere. I even walked on 300 North, which is this road that you see here. For 10 minutes, I only saw 2 cars. However, this does not have to be Rick's car for him to be Bridge Guy and the killer. But the evidence points to him taking this longer route, probably to drive by the Mears parking lot to see if anyone was parked there, so he knew if people were going to be on the trail as he tried to live out his sexual fantasy. There are 3 different ways to get from Rick's home to the trail. Just because he said he normally drove through town does not mean he did that on February 13th. As I stated before, the defense had security video from Main Street, Delphi, but never presented anything at his trial to show that Rick drove through town like he said between noon to 2 p.m.
I'm just trying to be at peace with things. But I have to let you know that I did it, hon.
Dear. No, you didn't.
In the description below this video, I put a link to Hughes' full 17-minute car comparison video. The 1:30 p.m. arrival Rick admitted to 5 days after the murders matches up to the facts of that afternoon. At 1:26 p.m., the 4 girls took photos at bench number 2. After they took those photos, the 4 girls were exiting near the start of the trail when they passed a man who they said matched the man from Libby's video. In the same spot, Richard Allen said he passed 3 girls. Even though this police interview was 5 years after the murders, Rick seemed to remember that the girls he passed were different ages, different heights, and looked like sisters.
When I was approaching the trailhead, I guess is what I call it, there was 3 girls walking off the trail, and I just remember it looking like one of them was probably watching, babysitting, but watching the other 2 because they looked a little younger, and they looked very similar. I don't know if they were sisters or whatever, but the other one didn't necessarily. But I remember seeing them walking off the trailhead.
Rick perfectly described the 4 girls who passed Bridge Guy. 3 of those 4 girls were sisters or half-sisters, and their ages were 12, 13, and 2 were 16. The only detail Rick got wrong about the 4 girls was saying he passed 3 girls. But he also said he could have been wearing a head covering and a hood, so it's unclear how good his vision was as he tried to pass these girls on the narrow trail. An internet sleuth named Doug Rice showed a photo to one of these girls of a man named Jimmy Dale Duval, and the girl said he resembled the man she saw. Police interviewed Duval, and he was not a suspect. You can decide if you think Richard Allen and Jimmy Dale Duval resemble each other. If you think Richard Allen is innocent, find the separate group of 3 girls who will testify they passed a man resembling Richard Allen around noon. Then explain how Rick never saw the 5 other females for over an hour when all of them were all over both trails, the bridge, down by the creek, and past the bench he said he sat on. Rick's noon arrival was a lie.
It's true, honey.
No, it's not. You're not well, sweetheart.
I'm well.
No. No, you don't.
Yes, I am, honey. I just hope that you'll still love me, because I may only, if I get the electric chair or if I get the death penalty out.
No.
Betsy's car was spotted again on the Hoosier Harbor Store camera, arriving at Mears around 1:46 p.m. for her last exercise loop. She told police she saw the 4 girls leaving the overpass to the left of Freedom Bridge, so that was probably around 1:44 p.m. It takes 3 minutes to walk from the CPS lot where Rick parked to the start of the trail near Freedom Bridge, and then another 8 to 10 minutes to pass the Mears intersection. So Rick probably passed the 4 girls between 1:32 and 1:36 p.m. because Betsy parked around 1:46 to 1:47. But she did not see Rick until she got to the barricade at High Bridge. He was likely on the bridge by 1:50 p.m. At the start of his 2022 police interview, Rick said he only saw 3 young girls near the start of the trail when he arrived, but he saw nobody else for the rest of his time, for over an hour up to an hour and 45 minutes, which is factually impossible. However, 40 minutes into this interview, Rick somehow magically remembered the following.
Like I told him, there may have been somebody on the bridge or something when I was coming back through, but I didn't. The only ones that I really noticed seeing were the 3 girls.
So a double child murderer was on the bridge around the same time as you, and you may remember seeing someone on the bridge or something. Rick's emotional demeanor in these 2 video police interviews, for the most part, leans toward an innocent man, in my uneducated opinion, but his statements in these interrogations and prison phone calls are that of a guilty man.
They messed you up so bad.
It's okay, honey. I did it. I did it, dear.
Stop.
I cannot stop.
Quote, "There may have been somebody on the bridge or something when I was coming back through." End quote. That was Rick admitting he saw Betsy when she was at the barricade around 1:53 p.m. Betsy saw a man matching Bridge Guy from Libby's video, standing on platform 1. You know, that same platform that Rick said he stood on, watching fish, despite the creek being muddy on February 13th, and the next day as shown in this helicopter footage. Rick saw Betsy, quote, "when I was coming back through," end quote, means he left platform 1 after Betsy turned around at the barricade, and he went back on the trail. Rick admitted he was Bridge Guy by saying he saw somebody. Other than Rick, Betsy was the only adult and person alone on the trail between noon until Libby's 213 video of Bridge Guy. People act like this case is so hard to figure out. It's not. Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. He admitted it. What are people missing? I don't understand. Betsy's exercise route means she likely passed the Mears intersection bench 7 times between 12:02 and 1:15 p.m., but she never saw any men on the trail or bridge until she saw Bridge Guy on platform 1 around 1:53. After that, Betsy passed Abby and Libby when they were about halfway between the Mears intersection and the start of Monon High Bridge. Rick later confessed to the prison psychologist that he saw Abby and Libby and followed them to the bridge.
It's good to hear your voice.
So did Kathy tell you that I did it?
We're not going to discuss this, okay? We love you. You know that, don't you?
Regardless?
In 2017 and 2019, Betsy gave statements to the police that the man on platform 1 was 20 to early 30s with poofy hair, but she testified at the trial that she only saw Bridge Guy for a moment. His face was not super clear. The poofy hair could have been a hat, and her reference to poofy hair was when she was comparing two different images provided by the sketch artist. Betsy estimated that she was about 50 feet from platform 1 when she saw Bridge Guy, but Google Maps shows the old barricade that she stood at was approximately 124 feet from platform 1. This is a photo of me standing where platform 1 used to be prior to renovations. Betsy was about twice as far as the person who took this photo of me. After that, I changed places with the camera person, and I stood at the start of High Bridge and had them stand near platform 1 to see if I could describe the features of that person. Even though I was staring at them to try, I could not really make out their individual features to be able to describe them to anybody. Rick confirmed he was the man that Betsy saw by saying he saw a person near the bridge when he was standing on platform 1.
Hi.
I did it. Kathy,
What?
I did it.
I got home from work and my wife said, they want to talk because I had obviously told her that I was there. And she said they want to talk to anybody that was down there, may have any information. How much, but I obviously will go down. So we went down to the sheriff's station and I don't remember who it was, came out and talked to me and said that he would get my name and information.
During a break in his October 26, 2022 interview with Jerry Holman, Rick's wife revealed that he lied to her and said he was not on the bridge that afternoon.
And I'm like, of course you were out there.
If they seen me out there, they seen me out there, dear. And I told
Were
them.
you on the bridge?
I told them I was on the bridge. I went out to the first trestle.
Oh, okay.
That first
I
thing.
don't remember you telling me that. You told me, so I told you weren't on it. But I didn't.
It doesn't, hon, you're not in any trouble. You didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
Tell him, right?
Huh?
I didn't know you were on it. I'm sorry.
Well, don't worry about it.
You told me you weren't.
Huh?
You told me you weren't, so I just was.
No, I told you that I walked.
Okay.
I love you, baby.
Great job changing the subject when you're revealed to be a liar on camera. He loves his wife so much that he lied to her and said he was not on the bridge. Some people online have accused his wife of not remembering what Rick told her 5.5 years earlier at the time of the murders. But their home was raided 13 days before this police video. During and after a police raid, would most wives ask their husband what they did on the trail around the same time a murderer abducted 2 children? Why would Rick lie to his wife and say he was not on the bridge? Everyone in Delphi, in Indiana, and around the world was trying to identify the man on the bridge, and he told her he wasn't even on the bridge. He told police he was on platform 1, but apparently didn't tell his wife until 5.5 years later in the police interrogation room.
And I don't know much saying anything, I'm sure.
But you know that I done it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
After Rick saw Abby and Libby on the trail, he made the decision at some point to follow them across the bridge. Libby's 43-second video captured a short man wearing what appeared to be boots, jeans, a blue jacket, and some people think Bridge Guy was wearing a dark green head covering. Rick was photographed at the local bar playing pool wearing a dark green skull cap, and he told police he kept a skull cap in his jacket. Several skull caps were seized at his home in 2022, but none of them were green. So what happened to his green hat? Did he put his phone from the day of the murders inside of it and recycled them both? Because that phone's missing. We'll get to that later. Rick admitted it was possible he was wearing the same outfit as Bridge Guy from head to toe. This comparison shows my body type at 6'1" as I stood on Monon High Bridge compared to Richard Allen and Bridge Guy, whose small stature and shoe size seems to fit Richard Allen. Some people think Richard Allen and Bridge Guy's voices match, but some people don't. Judge for yourself in this comparison I made of Rick's voice from his phone voicemail, prison phone calls, and police interviews alongside Bridge Guy's voice from Libby's video.
Please leave your message for
Rick.
Hello, this is a free call from
Ricky.
Downhill. I killed Abby and Libby. Yes, I did.
If you go down that hill, there used to be a little shed, a little shack down there, guys. Guys.
I need you to know that I did this. But I have to let you know that I did it, hon. It's okay, honey, I did it. I did it, dear.
And I'm not saying you guys, please don't think this is out of left field, guys. And I know you guys don't talk to people. I don't hear a bunch of rumors out there, but I don't want anybody knowing that I talk to you guys.
And with what you guys have done to me, because you guys are like trying to trick me into doing something.
On May 3rd, 2023, Rick told a psychologist he saw a van driving down the long driveway that only has one house at the end. There's some confusion as to when the driver of that van arrived home after clocking out of work at 2:02 p.m., and also where Rick and Abby and Libby were when the van arrived. But the van was definitely home by 2:50 p.m., and Bridge Guy would have seen the van within 18 minutes after Libby's phone last moved at 2:32 p.m. The van in that location at that time is a detail only the killer would know. Richard Allen also said he cut their necks and put branches on them, which matched up with the crime scene. In his October 13th, 2022 interview, Rick described vehicles parked at the Mears lot using the terms sedan and SUV. So the level of specificity of a less common car type, a van, is damaging to any thoughts of Rick being innocent. Betsy parked at Mears and drove an SUV, but testified that no other cars were parked there, as she likely had a view of that lot 7 times between noon and 1:15. Some people say there were online references to a van over the years before Richard Allen was arrested, and those people came up with some crazy conspiracy theories. They hypothesized that because Rick's psychologist from Westville, Dr. Walla, followed the case before Rick was arrested, she must have told Rick about the van. But there is no evidence of anyone online referencing a van at the end of the private driveway during the time of the murders. The police testified that there was no reference to the homeowner's van in the police reports that Rick was given in his prison cell. There is no evidence of Dr. Walla lying to make Richard Allen look guilty. She showed him compassion in prison, including helping him get in-person visits with his wife to improve his mental well-being. On April 7th, 2023, after Rick confessed to her, one of the times that he confessed to her, she told Rick it was not in his best interest to tell her those things, and that he should only be talking about those things to his attorneys. For anybody wanting to argue that the sedan that Rick said he saw at Mears was maybe parked next to Betsy's SUV when Betsy was not walking past Mears 7 times in 1 hour and 15 minutes, she would have seen Rick as she walked to and from Freedom Bridge if he left at 1 or 1:30. She did not see any men between noon to 1:15. The cell phone Richard Allen used on the day of the murders was missing from his home during the October 2022 search, but police found approximately 14 to 16 old cell phones as far back as 1998, and even the one he used after 2017. So where's that phone? During the interview, Rick said maybe his wife recycled it, but what did he and his wife and his defense team do as he awaited trial for being a double child murderer to find this 2017 phone to extract the data to show that he's innocent? At the trial, Tony Liggett testified that despite Richard Allen saying he used a stock ticker on his phone on the trail, there was no evidence of that. However, Liggett did not elaborate about any kind of phone data. Over 10 months in prison, Rick told approximately 30 people that he killed Abby and Libby, that he was not crazy while making confessions, no one at the prison was forcing him to make the confessions, and no one helped him commit the murders. But some people online are like, nah, I don't believe him. They say he falsely confessed because he was involuntarily given the drug Haldol, which caused him to repeatedly lie about being a double child murderer to anybody who would listen. This is another situation where people just are not familiar with the facts of the case. Haldol was first administered to Rick on April 14th, 2023. I made a spreadsheet with my notes from the trial, and on 6 different days between April 3rd and April 13th, before he was given Haldol, Rick confessed to 9 people that he was the one who killed Abby and Libby. I'm not going to waste my time reading every incriminating statement. You can pause if you want to read my notes from the testimony from the trial. I did my best to capture what was said, and the final transcripts will most likely show slight variations, but this is pretty much accurate. Just a few important dates. March 21st, 2023, Rick started reading the Bible and accepted God as his Savior. Around April 3rd or 4th, Rick received legal papers which were evidence against him. On the 3rd, he called his wife and said, "I did it. I killed Abby and Libby." April 5th, he told the warden, "I am ready to officially confess for killing Abby and Libby." Also on April 5th, he told Dr. Walla he killed Abby and Libby and that he's sorry. He committed the murders alone. He had a sex addiction and his intentions were sexual. He was selfish all his life and a coward and took their lives to preserve his own. He wants to apologize to the family and wished he could have changed his actions. Rick was on suicide watch for a while, so guards had to sit outside of his cell 24 hours a day and write on pieces of paper what he was saying. The following are from their notes. At the trial, it was very powerful, as one correction officer after another got on the stand and read from their notes. April 7th, he told a corrections officer, "God, I'm so glad nobody gave up on me after I killed Abby and Libby." 31 minutes later, I, Richard Matthew Allen, killed Abby and Libby all by myself. Nobody helped me. 2 minutes later, I'm not crazy. I'm only acting like I'm crazy. The next day, I am ready to confess. I swear to God I killed Abby and Libby. The day after that, April 9th, I killed Abby and Libby. Then, 6 minutes later, he said, "The funniest joke is how I killed them. I got what I deserved for what I did, and I hope I burn in hell for what I did." The next day, April 10th, Rick was crying. "I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for killing them." The same morning, Rick said, "I'm guilty." He referenced his wife, Kathy, and said, "Kathy, I did it. I'm guilty. Run, Kathy, run. I did it." 4 days later, Rick was injected with 5 milligrams of short-acting Haldol, and 4 days after that, on April 18th, he was injected with 15 milligrams of long-acting Haldol once every 4 weeks. In December 2023, Rick was transferred to Wabash Prison, and on February 4th, 2024, about 10 months after he first started confessing, an officer was doing his 15-minute rounds and overheard Rick crying in his bed, talking to himself or to God, saying, quote, "I am sorry for what I did. I am sorry for killing those girls," end quote. A few people have commented under my videos that Odinist guards forced Rick to call his wife and confess. It seems that some people believed the fake quote dreamed up by Rick's defense attorneys on page 22 of the Frank's Memo, Volume 1, where they wrote that Rick said the following quote, "The guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her that I killed those girls." The next sentence by the attorneys did not admit this quote was a lie. The defense wrote that in smaller font in the footnote at the bottom of the page. It was obvious to me at the time that the defense only made up that quote because they were informed that Rick was actually telling people, "I killed those girls." So his attorneys needed to come up with an excuse why their client was admitting he was guilty. Rick's prison cell was under 24-hour surveillance on video, and the defense had copies of that. No prison guards forced Richard Allen to pick up his tablet and dial the phone and call his wife and mom and admit that he is a double child murderer.
But just saying it doesn't mean you did it.
Well, it does when I did.
Rick, don't talk like this. I think they're just messing with you.
No, Mom, they're not. It's true, honey.
No, it's not. You're not well, sweetheart.
I'm well.
No. No, you're not.
Yes, I am, honey.
Some people argue that Rick only confessed because he was in solitary confinement, but his attorneys said his mental health was normal when they met him on March 24th, 2023, a few weeks before he started confessing. And he did not start acting crazy until 5 months after he had been alone in a cell at Westville. His attorneys incorrectly wrote April 24th, 2023, but they filed it April 5th. Almost all of the guards testified that Richard Allen was pretending to be crazy and that he would stop acting out when they turned away, or he would become normal when he wanted something like to use the phone. He even told one of them he was only acting crazy. After reading the Bible and allowing God in his life in late March 2023, and then getting evidence against him, Rick told the psychologist He wanted to get right with God, so he started confessing. People ask, what was Rick's motive on February 13th? Rick told the prison psychologist he saw his parents, and when they went out to eat lunch, he opted to get a six-pack and drank 3 beers at home. He bundled up and saw the girls and followed them to the bridge. He did something with a gun, and then the bullet fell out. He was going to rape them and thought they were older. He saw a van that scared him. He then cut their necks and made sure the girls were dead. He covered them with branches and did not exit the trail. He went back to his vehicle by a building and continued living life as time went on. After he told that story to Dr. Walla, he appeared to be relieved and requested a transfer to another facility. He said he was eating his feces because he was afraid of telling the truth. He also said he was a sex addict who was molested and sexually active before he was a teenager. Both Abby and Libby's pants, shoes, and socks and underwear had been removed at some point after they went down the hill.
Forgive me, I mean, it's been years and I thought about it a lot. Honestly, it amazes me that we're even talking. I mean, it's been so long and I haven't thought about this much, and it's just like I don't want to be somebody's fall guy.
Despite telling police that over 5 years since the murders, he both thought about it a lot, then 30 minutes later that he had not thought about it much, at his trial, the prosecution revealed Google searches conducted when Richard Allen's email was logged in. His email was foojacka0@gmail.com. I'll try to keep this part PG rated. Urban Dictionary describes fooj and foojack as being slang words for using feet to stimulate a man's private part for pleasure. Between 2020 and 2022, Rick repeatedly searched for news about Delphi, including the murders, and as recent as October 5th, 2022, 8 days before police raided his home. He also searched for news on Delphi on August 19th, 2022, which is when the Wabash River search started near Kegan Klein's home, and it was all over the news. Also notable was April 17th, 2022, when over a 32-minute period, Rick searched for news about Delphi, visited a TV station's webpage about the murders, and then typed the phrase, "Should I die now?" 3 times over 17 minutes. On October 17th, 2020, he read this ABC News article from the 3-year anniversary of the murders on February 13th, 2020. Everything I reviewed in this video is why I would have voted guilty if I was a juror in Rick's trial. I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion from innocent to guilty. Like all of my Delphi videos, I share things that I spend time trying to figure out, and I upload them if it might help viewers learn something or save time. At this point, to me, the case is over, it's solved. This is my last Delphi video where I'm trying to analyze stuff. It's obvious Richard Allen was bridge guy. He was not there from noon to 1. Just because there is not an undeniable DNA connection in this case, this is not some big mystery that some people make it out to be. Richard Allen was bridge guy and the killer of Abby and Libby.
I killed Abby and Libby.
If you choose not to believe Richard Allen telling you that he was the killer and ignore all of the facts pointing towards his guilt, that's your right. But I don't see another jury being presented all this evidence and finding Richard Allen not guilty in the future. In my other videos, I've already addressed in detail why Ron Logan, Kegan Kline, and the Odinists were not involved in these murders, so I'm not wasting more time in this video. Like Richard Allen said, he committed the murders alone. Hopefully, one day, Richard Allen will tell the truth to the whole world and sincerely apologize to Abby, Libby, and their families. Thanks for watching.